Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new podcast. Everybody has their own podcast now, and now there's a new one. This is called Old Scribes. It's a new podcast that we hope appeals to what we are hoping is the mature sports fan. My name is Matt Aguilar. I've been a sports writer for 30 years. I'm a native of El Paso, Texas. I worked at the local newspaper there for 14 years. I went to UTEP, also known as Harvard on the Border. And not too much laughing, George. And I covered everything at that time from college football to rodeo. But my true loves have always been NFL and boxing. And guess what this podcast is going to be about? And guess what it's going to focus on? NFL and boxing. My partner in crime in this new venture is a guy everybody in the scribe world knows, George Willis, a very accomplished writer from my neck of the woods, who has done some very accomplished things in his career. George, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, we're the Borderland boys, right?
Right.
I was born and raised in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and I went to UTEP's rival, New Mexico State University, and went on to graduate from there in journalism and had a pretty good career, or having a pretty good career, actually. Worked at a couple of places, New York Times, New York Post,
A
Newsday.
few places, a few
A
places.
few places,
You might
yeah.
have heard of them.
You might have heard of them, and but looking forward to this. You know, it's a new time and a new age and a new way to communicate with people who are interested in sports, and that's what we want to do. So, looking forward to this, Matt. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, well, NFL season starts Thursday, tomorrow.
Right. Da-da-da-da.
And it's who do we think is going to win? Not just the Super Bowl, not just the NFC or AFC championships, but who do you think is going to win the divisions? So George and I are going to make our fearless predictions for the season. And should we flip a coin to see who goes first? What are we doing here, George? Who you want to go first?
No, you can go first. I just, want to remind everybody of some of the key storylines this year. You know, the new kickoff rule will be interesting to follow and see see what develops from that. And then, of course, you got the Kansas City Chiefs going for the three-peat, which has never been done before. You know, 8 different teams have tried and 8 different teams have failed. So, whether the Chiefs can accomplish that, we'll have to watch that on a week-by-week basis. Should be a lot of fun.
And of course, another storyline, something that you wrote about, George. We're talking about the new kickoff, which really looks strange. But
Right.
so far, what are your thoughts so far, just on what you've seen?
Well, I'm not sure if what we saw in the preseason is what we're going to see in the regular season. We saw a lot of big returns during the preseason. I know that probably got the coach's attention, and if they get a little leery, then they're going to start kicking the ball in the end zone, and you're going to see the same thing we had before, except the ball is going to come out to the 30. Now, I watched the college football opening week and saw the traditional kickoff, and I have to admit that kind of tugged on my heart. That was a lot easier on the brain than watching the other kickoff coverage team line up in the kickoff return team's territory. So we'll see how this kind of thing shakes out. Maybe it's a one-year experiment, and we go back to the way things were, because I actually prefer the old way better.
Yeah, it is going to definitely take some time to get used to. It feels weird, and you're right. When you were watching college football, it just seemed refreshing to see it done the way that we think it's supposed to be done. Of course,
Right.
we understand the injury component to that. We certainly understand that last year there was very few returns. The lowest in NFL history, I think. So, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I'm with you. I think it just feels better to watch college football with the real kickoff. So
Right.
we'll see, and we'll also see. It'll be also interesting to see if it does stick in the NFL, right? If it does go
Mhm.
beyond this year or it goes into next year, what then happens
Right.
to college football? What happens to high school football? what happens, does it affect all of it? And, in 5 years, is the whole thing going to be changed? So, we'll see, kind of like the 12 and 15 round fights in boxing. At first there was 12 and 15. Then some people change, some organizations changing, some others. Then it's all 12 now. So,
right.
So I'll go. Let's go ahead. Should we start this? Should we go ahead and make
Let's jump into it? Let's jump into it.
All right. So I'll go ahead and go first because I'm not scared. And so we'll go AFC East. I'm going to go with Miami. I think Buffalo is probably the better team, but I think the Finns have an easier schedule. And who can go against Mike McDaniel and his quirky ways? So I'm going with Miami there. AFC North, going with the Ravens. They open up.
Well, let me jump in here with the AFC East. And
okay, that's how you want to do it
as well. Yeah. I'm going to go with the Jets, Jets. And
wow.
Maybe that's a little bit of the New York homer in me, but I just believe that they have a lot of skill, a lot of talent at the skill positions. I don't expect Aaron Rodgers to be, the way he was 10 years ago, but I think he's serviceable and manageable and capable of having some big games. But I think they got a lot of talent out there with Garrett Wilson at receiver and Breece Hall to do a lot of the heavy lifting. They revamped their offensive line and brought in Tyrone Smith from the Cowboys. So I think it's kind of at least playoff or bust for the Jets. And I just think if everything works together, then this might be their year. But certainly Miami and Buffalo will have something to say about that. And that should be one of the more intriguing divisions in football this year.
Yeah, definitely. Also, the Jets have, Mike Williams from my Chargers, who I was not happy to see go. I still think he's got some life in him. He is coming off, ACL, MCL injury, and it's a serious injury, and I know it's going to be tough for him to come back. But I mean, he could be a weapon.
Yes, he could be, and he normally has about 2 or 3 big games a year because I've had him on my fantasy team the last couple of years, and he was always somebody who, came up with just one of these huge games on Sunday and carried the team almost on his own. But speaking of your Chargers, I don't know if you want to go there, but a lot of losses on that team.
We can go AFC West now. We can go AFC West. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and go start us off.
Well, let's see. AFC West, of course, I've got the Chiefs winning again, which is hard for me to say since I'm a diehard Raiders fan, but it is what it is. And I think any team that has Pat Mahomes on it, especially in that division, has got to be favored. The Raiders are, they're on their 15th quarterback since Kenny Stabler, probably 25th quarterback since then. And we'll see what happens. I have a lot of hope for Antonio Pierce and hope he is the answer there and can get that franchise turned around. But I'm not all that optimistic that's going to happen. So, your Chargers lost a few players, and Eckler, I guess they let him go, and they're counting on some more people to step up. What are you thinking about that and Harbaugh coming to the team?
It pains me to say, but I think the Chargers are a few years away. I did not think so when the season started. I thought that Harbaugh was going to come in and tinker with things. I didn't realize he was going to overhaul the entire offense. So gone is Mike Williams, gone is Austin Eckler, and gone is Keenan Allen. That's 90% of their offensive production. Right. I don't see how you can replace that in 1 year. I understand, their Harbaugh is, run heavy, and that'll be interesting to see how this plays out in this era of the NFL. But I don't think they have the personnel yet to compete with the Chiefs. So I'm going with the Chiefs, and I think that the Raiders and Broncos are probably even a couple of years away. The Chargers may be 1 year away. I think the Raiders and Broncos may be 2 or 3 years away. So, I agree with you. I think the Chiefs are easy winners in the AFC West.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting how Bo Nix does at Denver. I hope he doesn't do very well at all,
though. Who's that?
Bo Nix, the rookie quarterback down at Denver.
He looked good.
I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback, unfortunately.
We could,
But
right, exactly. We could be looking at a whole new bone nose Nike campaign now.
exactly, exactly. That would be frightening.
All right, so let's go AFC North. These guys open up Thursday night. We got two, and with me, I just think it's the Ravens. And, I think obviously tomorrow's game is going to tell us a lot and answer a lot of questions. But, two words, Lamar Jackson. He's the most, next to Pat Mahomes, he's the most electric quarterback in the game. I think Cincy will push him, but that depends on whether Burrow stays healthy, and that's we'll see what happens there. But I think the Ravens will be there. They'll be there at the very end. They'll be competing for the championship, AFC championship. So I'm going Ravens there. How about you?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. And the addition of Derrick Henry gives them a pretty powerful running game, which is something that they really didn't have. They got by with the running game that they've had the last couple of years with Lamar doing a lot of it in key situations. But Derrick Henry now in that backfield, that's a load, and he's going to have something to prove. So I expect him to have a big year if he can stay healthy.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a guy who, he's one of those guys that's one of those runners that even if he's a little aged, right, he's got some miles on him. He's one of those power runners that you don't necessarily need him in his prime. He's still a load to bring down.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So next we got AFC South going with the Texans.
Right.
CJ Stroud, he's proven himself a playoff quarterback. They proved that last year. They looked good. And the rest of the division is it's so-so. So I think the Texans are going to take the AFC South. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I've got the Texans winning that division as well, and very excited to see this team, young team, energetic team, got their feet wet, so to speak, last year, making the playoff. Stroud has to come back with a lot of confidence, and the addition of Stephon Diggs on that team, nobody's really talking about that too much, but he's going to be on that team as well. So his fiery leadership on that team might be exactly what they need to get over the big games that they're going to face and the attention that they're going to have this season.
Do you think they could be kind of I know they had their breakout year last year, but do you think that the Texans could be a team that really surprises some people this year?
Yeah, I don't even really know if that's going to be that much a surprise. I think a lot of people are looking at them to do well this year. It'll be a matter of once they get to the playoffs, have they got the maturity and developed as a team to be able to get beyond where they got last year and really challenge and getting that conference championship game and maybe match up against the Chiefs and see what happens.
All right, we're going NFC now. Changing conferences. Let's go NFC East. I've never been a Cowboy fan, even though I've lived in Texas most of my life. But
Don't do it.
Huh?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm going Cowboys. How many years can they knock on the door with this roster and this money? And, I know Jerry Jones is there, but, I think consistency in personnel may play a role here. They didn't do a whole lot in the draft, and sometimes that can be a good thing, keeping things intact. So you know what? I'm going with Dak and the boys to win the NFC East.
All right. Well, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think even though they imploded at the end of last season and were probably the biggest disappointment in the NFL by the way they finished the year, the addition of Saquon Barkley and the approach to try to prove themselves and to legitimize themselves as a good elite football team, maybe even elite football team, I think is going to mean a lot to them this year. And I think they have enough talent, especially at the wide receiver position, to have a very dominant offense this year. And so I expect the Eagles to win that division. I think the Cowboys make the playoff as a wild card, and we'll see what they can do in the playoffs this year. And certainly Dak, whether or not he has a contract, will still have to prove that he can get over the hump, so to speak, and get that team back to the Super Bowl.
Do you think that Barkley can come back all the way?
I think if he stays healthy, he's still, an elite running back, probably one of the top three best running backs in the league. But the question is, can he stay healthy? He's had injury problems the last few years and has had to miss games. So if he stays healthy, I think he can have a huge year. I don't think he feels he has to be the guy like he probably felt he had to be in New York with the Giants and do as much as he had to do in New York. So I think that will help him to have a long season and be in a very productive season.
All right, let's move on to the NFC North. I'm going Lions, who aren't surprising people anymore. They've arrived. Painfully close last year. I really think that that will motivate them to really take it a step further this year. How far can they go? Who knows? But they have a whole city behind them, the whole state behind them. They are the team to watch this year, in my opinion. Just a couple of bad play calls last year prevented them from, reaching the big game. So I'm going Lions in NFC North.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. And I would say, concur with everything you said. They didn't have any major changes. They've got all their good young talent back. As you said, they got the whole city behind them. Even though they lost a very, very tough game in the playoffs to the Niners, championship game, I think it bodes well for them this year. I think they have a lot to prove. They're hungry. They got a taste of it. And I think the Lions are going to be a big problem for everybody.
100% agree. All right, let's move on to the NFC South. I'm going to go Falcons. They seemed kind of strangely, I don't want to say clueless on draft day, but some strange goings on draft days. But Kirk Cousins is there now. Presumably injury free. I kind of think that the Falcons could, with his arrival, they could be the surprise team of the season. They have the personnel and they have the quarterback now. So I'm going Falcons for the NFC South.
I'm going to agree with you again. I think the Falcons, if they're going to do anything, I think this is their year to do it.
Right.
Cousins is a very capable quarterback. And I wasn't too upset by the pick of the quarterback as well, the rookie Penix to go there and sit out a year, or if he has to come in later in the year. Quarterbacks are hard to come by, and if you have one there that can play after Cousins is gone for the next 10 years, then why not get him groomed now while you can before the pressures really mounts on top of him. The other teams in the division, they're still trying to find themselves a little bit, so I think this is the time where the Falcons can take advantage.
Agreed. It's a good point about the quarterbacks. Because I think when you look at Patrick Mahomes, his success was kind of predicated in the fact he played behind Alex Smith for a year. And now they're all like Caleb Williams. They're all thrown into the fire. And I don't, I think that's proven to be not a great idea. You may have pockets of success with different quarterbacks, but you're probably right. It's just to be paying that much money for two quarterbacks and to be doing, it just took everybody by surprise. But hey, maybe they know what they're doing.
Maybe. I mean, they haven't always, but you never know about it.
And finally, wrapping it up with the NFC West. It is not a tough one for me. 49ers are back. Brock Purdy proved himself to be the real deal last year. McCaffrey's healthy. Hey, it's Super Bowl or bust for the San Francisco 49ers.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the year they got to go for it. I mean, they barely missed winning the Super Bowl last year. They had a good enough team to win it all. Didn't quite make it there. Now they seem to be getting all their players signed again. Trent Williams just got signed the other day. So they're ready to go. And they're a very confident team. They should not have any problem in the division, really. So it's the playoffs and staying healthy for them. And I see them having a great year.
Agreed. Agreed. The Rams could potentially, who knows what is going to happen with the Rams, but I don't think they can beat San Francisco. All right, conference champions. I'm going Chiefs in the AFC and Lions in the NFC, and that's probably exactly what you have.
Okay, well, who was the Chiefs playing in the AFC championship game?
The Chiefs were playing the Ravens.
The Ravens, okay. All right. I've got the Chiefs playing the Jets. I just think if the Jets make it that far to the playoffs and they have the team that's gelling at the time, I think it could be their year. New York gets behind them, might motivate them to get them to the AFC Championship like the old Rex Ryan days. And we'll see. But I've got the Chiefs and the Jets in the AFC Championship game.
And in the NFC Championship, I'm going Lions, 49ers again, and going with Lions this time.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Well, I do have the Lions in the game, but I have them going against the Eagles. And I do have the Eagles winning that game. And but that could go either way. By that time, you just hope for a good game and two equal teams. I think we're going to have a very balanced playoff this year. I think it's going to be very exciting. I don't think there's going to be a lot of differences between the teams that are involved, and it could be the kind of year where a distant wild card team wins it. But I have the Eagles and the Lions playing in the NFC Championship, and I have the Eagles winning the game.
Have the Eagles win the game. All right. So then you've got the Eagles and did I hear you say the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
The Chiefs, yes.
Okay. All right.
I think I said the Chiefs. I was trying to say the Chiefs.
I couldn't. I don't know. I didn't quite.
I might have said the Jets. Well,
yeah, I think
edit that out if I said the Jets.
So,
but
give me that AFC pick again.
Well, in the AFC Championship, I'm going to have the Chiefs playing the Jets, and I think the Jets will put up a good fight. But I think the Chiefs, with all the momentum and everything going on with the three-peat, they'll be able to squeak by and beat the Jets in the AFC Championship game. So I've got the Chiefs advancing to the Super Bowl, going for their three-peat.
So I guess you have Aaron Rodgers lasting well beyond a play or two.
Yeah, this will be his last season. They're going to have to carry him off the field, I guess.
Do you really think he's got it in him to go take a team that far? I mean, after a year?
Well, I think he's got a lot of talent around him. I don't think he has to carry him. I think he has to make a few big plays a game and let his skill people do the work. Let Garrett Wilson do the work. Let Breece Hall do the work. Let that big offensive line do the work. So I don't think he has to run around and make these Pat Mahomes throws. He's just got to be smart, and he's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL.
All right. So I've got the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl, and I'm going Lions.
Mm-hmm.
This is the year. Motor City's going to do it this year, and I think the MVP is going to be Jared Goff.
Oh wow! Okay.
How about that?
Okay. Sounds good. If the Lions win the game, it's probably going to be the quarterback, so that would be Jared Goff. I've got the Eagles defeating the Chiefs and ending the three-peat quest by winning the Super Bowl in New Orleans. I think it's the Eagles' year. Fly, Eagles, fly. They've got a great quarterback. They've got a great running back. They've got great receivers, strong defense, and that city, once they get going in the playoffs, it can be exciting. Now, who knows? Maybe last year has a lingering effect, and they're worried about what might happen again, and that could help them or it could hurt them. But I think the fact they know they have to keep the hammer down throughout the season is going to help them this year. And so I expect the Philadelphia Eagles to be the Super Bowl champions for 2024.
All right. Well, we're both picking NFC, a team from the NFC winning the whole thing.
Right.
So I guess what we're really saying is the Chiefs' run is coming to an end, and the
Mm-hmm.
Chargers and the Raiders are going to emerge
Emerge,
in the
right?
years to come, and next year maybe
Again,
far
again.
into the future.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go. We got to do some money line picks. All right. I am going to go with Browns are 2.5-point favorites over the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to cover. I think Cowboys are a little more well-rounded right now, and either way, I think they're going to win the game outright. So you don't hear me saying this very often, but go boys. And then I have the Chargers are 3-point favorites over your Raiders, but as we all know, they're playing in SoFi, and there's going to be more Raiders fans than Chargers fans. So there is no home field advantage. And I think last time the Raiders won by like 800 points last time they played.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
but it's always typically a pretty tough game. It's, the Raiders could well win it. Chargers still probably figuring things out. I mean, I think the Raiders will cover there. And then we got the Titans are plus 4.5 against the Bears. I think the Bears, they're new and improved and looked great in the preseason, but this won't be easy, even though it's here in Chicago. So I'm looking for the Titans to cover in Chi-Town.
Okay. I like all of those picks. Well, actually, I like the Browns to win that game. I think the Cowboys will have trouble with the Browns. I don't think it's a good matchup game for the Cowboys, so I'm going to pick the Browns in that one. No way I'm going to go against the Raiders against the Chargers, so I'm going to go with the Raiders in that one. And I'm also picking the Falcons in their game because I think that's going to get the snowball rolling a little bit for them, and I think they'll be able to get some momentum going in that.
All right.
And I'll throw that in. I also like the Ravens against the Chiefs on Thursday night.
Yeah. That's that in a 17 game season. This is a game that could very much loom large and probably will. 18 weeks down the road. So,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, anything can happen in that game. It's a great opener. All right. Anything else NFL wise? I was going to say something about. You said you weren't going to go against the Raiders, but hey, we're unbiased old Scribe reporters, George. We got to let that go. We got to let our biases go.
Right. Okay. Go Raiders. Nation.
It pained me to say that. Okay. All right. What else were you going to say?
No, I just I'm glad football's back. I think it's bigger than ever now. I think it's very competitive. I'm excited about the rookies coming into the league. I think there's been just enough change and movement of players to make it interesting. It's not quite like college football where there's 9,000 kids going to 900 different schools.
Right.
A couple of key players moved here and there. Interesting to see how the Bears do this year with Caleb Williams there, and just a lot of intriguing and interesting things to pay attention to.
Definitely. And speaking of Caleb Williams, I live here in Chicago, and I told my daughter, who is 15 years old, I said, if the Bears have a good season, you're going to see craziness like you've never seen because
Right.
literally I think they made the playoffs last in like 2010. I don't remember, but it's been a while. It probably since then, but I know they made the NFC Championship around there. So yeah, it's this town gets crazy when the Bears are good, and it'll be fun to see if they can pull it off. They're undefeated in the preseason. You never know; they could be the surprise team. They have a good team around them too. So we'll see what happens. All right, well let's move to boxing, and I know it's probably a fight you may not have caught, George, but There was one early Tuesday morning. I woke up at 5:30 Central Time to catch this, watch this 122-pound undisputed championship from Japan on the Plus, ESPN Plus. It was Noya Inoue against TJ Doheny, and Inoue had problems early on with the guy. And usually he comes out here and he blows guys away, but he took some shots. He even lost a couple of rounds, but when he came on, he really came on. He is recognized as one of the best fighters on the planet, and although there was some people were saying they weren't as impressed as they've been with the monster in the past, but he performed very well in my opinion. I mean, he just took his time this time. He's moved up 4 divisions. This is his 4th division that he's conquering.
Wow.
And when you're going up against bigger guys, you can't just like rush in there like you're in a Rocky movie and pound away. The guy he was fighting was not only bigger, but he was strong. You could tell he had one of those broad backs compared to Inoue, and it took him a few rounds to break him down, but he finally did. 7th round knockout, kind of put him down with a weird shot. Didn't put him down, but he made him quit. Pulled a no mas, and that was it. 28-0, 25 knockouts, and he is firmly in the conversation as for the best pound-for-pound fighter in boxing, along with Terence Crawford, Alexander Usyk, and Bam Rodriguez. But great performance, I thought, in my opinion, even though it wasn't as electric as it's been in the past. But the guy he looks kind of unbeatable right now. So we'll see where he goes from here.
Is he ever going to fight in the States anytime soon?
So it's a good point. Bob Arum did announce afterwards that he's going to have one more fight in Japan in this year, I think in November, he said. And then in 2025, it's coming to the States, coming to Vegas.
Wow.
So that'll be a big deal.
That will be a big deal.
He's a huge international star, and obviously a huge star in Japan, and he's sold out the arena that he was fighting in on Tuesday morning. So he's definitely a superstar that's coming to the United States, and for the first time in a long time, all the superstars in boxing aren't on this part of the world; they're on the other part of the world. So
right,
and that's a good thing. It's a true international sport.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, I think we'll wrap up with a little history here. It was 55 years ago on August 31st, actually last week, but that Rocky Marciano died in a small plane crash right outside of Newton, Iowa. He was actually here in Chicago, and he was going home, I guess. But that he would have turned 46 the next day on September 1st, 1969. But where does he rank in your opinion in heavyweight history? I mean, he was smaller. He wasn't a big guy. He was about 5'10", 5'11". He weighed about less than 200 pounds, 190 pounds maybe, at 185. But packed a punch, packed a big punch, and he only made 6 defenses in 4 years. Didn't have a long reign, or 4 years. So what do you think? Where does he rank in heavyweight history in your opinion?
Well, I think he's one of the important people in boxing, no question about that. Boxing has always been the kind of sport where it galvanized nationalities and people who had a bond with the fighter, whether it be ethnically or racially or geographically. And so he was an important fighter for his people. He was an important fighter for the sport. Where he ranks, I would say probably definitely in the top 10 somewhere, probably towards the bottom, I would say. if you want to include all the heavyweight champions and go back to Jack Johnson and all of that. But certainly a very important fighter, a fighter who is worthy of respect and worthy of being remembered, undefeated. So, that's important. Took on all comers too. He wasn't a guy who shied away from anybody, so he earned what he earned, and 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 he should be viewed accordingly. But I would say somewhere 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah. I actually did during COVID. Uh, there was nothing else to cover, so I ranked the 10 best heavyweights, uh, ever.
Hmm.
So it was number one was this guy. Number
Who's that?
two, Ali.
Oh, Ali. Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Number two, Joe Lewis. Number
okay.
three, Larry Holmes.
Mm,
Number four, Lennox Lewis.
okay,
Number five, George Foreman. And number six, Marciano.
okay.
Number seven, Jack Dempsey. Number eight, Jack Johnson. Number nine, Evander Holyfield. And number 10, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson 10. Okay.
What do you think about
Okay.
Tyson?
Well, Tyson's fine with 10. I agree. I agree with all those fighters probably being ahead of him. I couldn't argue with that. Who would be 11? Did you do 11?
Frazier.
Frazier. Okay. Yeah, Joe Frazier, Smoking Joe. Yeah, I mean that's an awesome lineup, isn't it? Of fighters
Yeah,
to
it's,
think
it's
about
awesome.
in their careers. Yeah.
It's awesome. And I would say, like I said, I wrote that in 2020. And since then, Alexander Usyk has made his case for
Mhm.
being in that top 10. And I probably wouldn't argue with anybody that put him in, at 8, 9, 10, something like that. I mean, he's undefeated himself. He's, he almost knocked out Tyson Fury in his last fight, who was
Mhm.
also moving up in heavyweight consideration in terms of history. But I think for now, I think that'll probably be more easily viewed as we know, 5 or 10 years down the road in terms of Usyk's career. But yeah, I mean, just the saying is, as the heavyweights go, boxing goes, right? And that's with those names, you can certainly see why that is. I mean, you got not only world champions, but you've got icons. You've got legends like Ali and Lewis and Dempsey that actually ruled their generations and their decades.
Right, no question, no question. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, maybe what was it, 4 years ago, that we were saying the heavyweight division was back because we had Tyson Fury and we had Wilder and you had Johnson and we had all these fighters uh, that were emerging in the heavyweight division and on this collision course to fight each other, and it never really quite materialized. I know Fury and Wilder had their fights, but we didn't quite see the trilogy between the three of them that we sort of expected.
Right, right, and it's always when a fighter loses, like Wilder did, it's always fashionable to say, "Oh, he wasn't that good, and he was one dimensional," which he was. I mean, he was one dimensional,
Mhm.
but also too, he made 10 title defenses, then he
Right,
reigned
he
for
did.
like 4 years. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's as much as Tyson. Now,
Right.
he certainly did not fight the level of opposition that Tyson did. Um, Even though Tyson's era wasn't all that great when he was coming up, with
Hmm.
guys like, Bone Crusher Smith and Pinklin Thomas and Tony Tubbs, those guys were not, good fighters, but a generation that was known for mostly for not giving it their all and often coming into
Right.
fights a little overweight or unconditioned. But
Hmm.
but I think Wilder, he was certainly exciting. His career is pretty much over now. He's lost his last two fights, but he was exciting, and he packed arenas, and he made people want to see him, and so he created some excitement. So that's that's certainly worth something, even though he will probably not rank near this kind of a list. But
Right.
it did. That was a, I think looking back, we'll look at that era as an era that was, if nothing else, exciting and rejuvenated the sport for a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything else? Have we wrapped up our first show?
I think we've wrapped up our first show. We have to keep those predictions on file to see how we did at the end of the year. But I mean, it's exciting. Looking forward to this venture, and we've got a few things going on down the line that we'll be mentioning to you, and so stay tuned and come back and visit.